about this Revolution 4.0, but what are the skills that teachers need in the digital age? And what better representation than our next line of panelists? We have Rocío Albert López Ibor. She's the Deputy Minister of Political Education in la Comunidad de Madrid. We have Doctora Lucia Dellagnelo. She's the Director Presidente del Centro de Innovação de la Educación Brasileira, CIEB. We have Frederick Lindgren, who's President and CEO of Kunskapskolan. It is one of the largest free independent school programs in Sweden with over 14,000 students. Can you imagine public schools being run by private institutions? And finally, we have Alfredo Hernando Calvo. He's a psychologist, an investigator, but his most important qualification is that he's a father. But he's also the founder in 2013 of the Proyecto Escuela 21. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming the skills of the future for teachers.
So thank you very much for this amazing day. I'm happy you stay here with us. We are going to have an hour to draw the line about how it's going to be the teacher training and the teacher skills in the digital age. And I have to declare myself, I'm a big fan of teachers. You know, I love teachers. I think they are the center of the change in innovation in the educational system. I'm a very big fan of the teachers of my kindergarten children, so I think I'm very fan of that. And I think one of these crazy ideas happened today when I was thinking about digital age. So I thought, what is the digital age? You know, we know every minute we have sent 188 emails per minute. Right now, all the time, we are selling this amount. We have more than 200 million pictures in Instagram every second minute, and all of this is happening also with our children. So I will, today in the morning, I asked Siri, you know, the personal assistant from the cell phone, I asked him, why do we need teachers when we got Google Siri? And she said to me, you know, teachers, they are usually nice people. Siri said that to me, and I said, okay, that's a good answer. You know, teachers are nice professionals, are nice people, they are nice workers. And the question will be, but how do we train and which skills do we need to have with these teachers in this digital age? So I will ask the first question to you three. Which one are your three favorites, your top three skills that teachers need in this digital age? Rocío, yeah, should I start?
Okay, first of all, thanks to Enlighted to invite me to participate in this wonderful program, and I will represent the region of Madrid and the education policies of Madrid. But I have to confess also that I'm a professor, so in some way I'm a teacher. And also I'm a mother, so I'm very worried about how my children will learn in this moment and in the future. So for me, it's really important, all of it. And I think that teachers are absolutely necessary, even if we have Googles, all the technologies that you can imagine, but they have to adapt to the new models and the new ways to learn to teach our students. As the competence of the students are going to change, the competence of the teachers have to change. And I think one of the most important things right now is to get them the competence to manage the knowledge of a classroom, because we know that coffee for everything is not a good thing, so you have to have in the same classroom very different people, and we have to give the teachers the tools to manage with these different people. And I think in this sense, technologies can be very useful because you can run different levels of speed with each student. And this is a way also for getting motivation or creativity for each student. So I think it's necessary, but it's very important that a teacher couldn't be confused for so many technologies or tools, and it has to be focused in the managing of the classroom.
So you see the teachers like with technology like this strong tool to manage diversity of learning, of way of learnings, of way of rhythms, of ways of material that we can change with technology.
And I'm not thinking about equalizing everything, getting everyone whatever they need. There are people who need a lot, so you have the tools and the techniques to get the maximum of them, but also you can manage with different technological tools to get from another people who are different, another speed of learning, and I think this is very useful, and you can get the best of everybody.
Wow, very good. Yeah. Lucia, what do you think about what are your top 3 skills for teachers?
Actually, I will start by disagreeing with Siri this morning.
Okay.
Teachers are not nice people. They are professionals. And there is no other profession in nowadays that you can work without using technology. Can you imagine a doctor that doesn't use technology, or a driver that cannot use Google Maps or something like that? So I think we have to reinstate this professional status of teachers, say they are the ones that are responsible for the process of educating children. Technology is not going to replace that, and it's not because they are nice, it's because they are professionals that study, that understand, that have a special look for what the teacher needs. And they should be the designers of the learning experience of each child. That's how technology comes in. Technology helps the teacher to exercise their profession in a better way, because nowadays they have tools, they have content that can tailor and personalize learning much better than they used to do when they had 40 or 50 students in the classroom. So when you ask me what are the main digital skills that teachers should have, I could think of 3 big groups. One is pedagogical practice mediated by technology. Teachers did not learn how to teach with technology when they were at university. So right now they need to understand how to incorporate this technology in their daily teaching. That's one big chunk. Personalization, formative assessment, how to do a curation of digital educational resources that are right for one child or the other. So that's one big group of digital skills. The second one is digital citizenship. There's a very interesting research done with thousands of teachers in Brazil, and teachers were asking, did students ask you about things in the internet, problems, cyberbullying, privacy issues? And almost all teachers said, yes, my students asked me about that and I didn't know what to say because I don't understand either. If they ask me if I was manipulated, for example, in political campaign by social media, I do not know as a teacher if I was or not was manipulated. So there is a set of skills of understanding the ethical implications of the use of technology that teachers need to understand, need to discuss, and need to learn how to teach this set of skills for their children. And the third one is professional development. We are all assuming that teachers know how to use technology for their professional development, that they will take online courses and they will learn new skills, but that's not true. Actually, edX, Harvard online platform, saying that most of the students that take courses in the online platform don't finish, don't ask for a degree. So we are a generation that we were not formed on using technology for our professional development. So I think when we look, there's three groups of skills that we need to address when we think about how to prepare teachers to be better professionals using technology.
Thank you, Lucia. I just came with this idea that you are in the government from a regional, from a province here in Spain. You have the perspective as a country, but you have the perspective from a group of schools. So we have the whole, the trilogy of the teacher training perspective. And how is this? How it is for you, Frederick? How are the skills that teachers need in your schools?
Well, it's a good question, and I like your structure there. I think it was very hands-on. And I was thinking, when you asked the question, maybe on a more philosophical way, and maybe it's the same skills in the digital age as before. But I think curiosity is one, to constantly look for new tools, to evaluate your own teaching, see what is effective, what type of group do you have in front of you, and of course, what new digital tools are there. So curiosity would be one of my top three. Second would be focus on relationships or relationship-centered type of teachers, because I think there's a vast amount of research showing that creating relationships is important. And I think also as we get more digitalized, hopefully that will mean that teachers can spend more time with students and meeting all the different students more. So if you don't like relationship building, I think that will be a weakness for you as a teacher going forward, even more than today. The third one would be communication, perhaps, and it's almost the second one again. But as someone showed before, the top three is probably relationship, relationship, relationship. But of course, to communicate is important when you want to build relationships, but I also think the digital tools enables even better communication, and that will also drive more learning.
Perfect, perfect. You know, we have this perspective in Madrid, Brazil, and Sweden, and I would like to ask you if you have a vision of a beautiful teacher training model, you know, because we know there are MOOCs, there are blended learning, there is direct assessment in schools, there are, you know, the typical workshops or conference or events like this that they are great, and they make the networking possible between schools, business, governments, entrepreneurship. But if you have a vision about how would you like for you to be the best teacher training model for Madrid in the next years? You know, you have a dream about teacher training, how it could be.
I will say that all the models, and there is not just one model that can work, but I think the different ones like MOOCs, blended, presential, distance, whatever, they have to have clear principles. All of them can work, and it depends also of the teachers, the disponibility and the restrictions, the dispersion of geography and so on. But there are three important principles. I think that training teachers has to be connected, link learning through practice and technological tools. It is very important. It's also very important that today that technological tools are so important. You teach the teachers, the redundance, to know how to make a safe use of technology, because as we mentioned before in our conversation, today it looks like there is a controversial relation between humanities and technology, and I don't think there is this controversial relation. We have to know that technology and these kind of tools are an instrument, but the important things are the contents, the learning, and it has to be an instrument and not a tool itself. So for me, it doesn't matter the way. It could be sometimes blended, could be sometimes distance, presence, whatever. but you have to have clear principle that the technical tools are instruments, that the important thing are the contents, that we have to make an updated of the didactical and scientific methods of learning, and all of them can work, but you have to know how to use
combine
it.
them and look for the best solution for every maybe a school, district.
Yeah, because I was thinking, for example, in Spain, that it's very different, the model of Madrid, that is a region that is very concentrated geographically talking, and it's completely different in the case, for example, of a region of Castilla-Leon, that is a big one, and probably they have to use much more distant learning or training learning for teachers. But I don't think that the important thing will be the way, and the important thing is how to teach the use of technologies and so on to get the improving of learning the new contents and so on.
Bigger than Spain is Brazil. Brazil is a huge country, a lot of teachers, a lot of young students. So how is your vision for, to the competence for this teacher training for all the teachers you have in Brazil?
We did something very simple. We asked teachers, how do you learn about technology? And the two answers were, I learned by myself, or I learned it by a peer, a friend of mine that taught me. And we asked, how about the training that the departments of education in Brazil spends millions of dollars every year training them? I said, no, it was not useful. See, why were not useful? They were spending a lot of money and a lot of time. And they told us, because there was no experimentation, and there was no time for me to share with my colleague what worked and what didn't work. So we had all this information. We decided to dream about how to create a place to train teachers how to use technology. And we developed this model, and this model is called effects, are spaces of experimentation for teachers and technology. And we started doing something thinking about the physical space. That's something that Stanford D School does very well. The space is very important. We usually train teachers in very traditional classrooms with the same setting that we want them to change. So we created these spaces that are very flexible, they are very colorful, they have all kinds of technology in it, even if that technology is not going to be in schools. For example, there was a huge discussion about a 3D printer. Should we have a 3D printer in the teachers training center? And a lot of people said, no, they are not going to use that in school. But we wanted them to know what a 3D printer was, because that was important for them to feel confident in order to talk about that with their students. So we created these centers. We have 2 prototypes now working in Brazil. And the idea is that teachers get together, they experiment. There is no theory about technology. They try on, they experiment the technology, and together they create a lesson plan that they think that they can use in their schools. So they go back to their schools, they apply the lesson plan, and they come back and then discuss what worked and what didn't work. So we are creating this vision that as we are doing with children and all our students, experimenting technology is very important for teachers. It's not a theoretical concept. You have to try on, you have to create on your experimentation.
So it's more like a make it movement. You have to be hand-on with technology. You have to break the 3D printer and fix it again and try again, and that's how you learn in the Center for Teachers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that all of us will agree that learning by doing is much useful than just learning in a theoretical way.
Of course.
Yeah.
It is. Yes. Frederick, you have 36 Kunskapskolan in Sweden.
Yeah.
And all the teachers, they are working under the same project. So they have the kind of the same skills. You also have new schools in India. And then you have two countries, same project. Teachers have to be kind of the same teacher training curricula. How do you manage all of this differentiation from countries, from districts, from different schools with different contexts?
Yeah.
How is the secret?
Well, I don't know if I know the secret, but you're absolutely right. We have the same pedagogical vision for all our schools, to make a more personalized education. So if you want to hear more about that, I will speak in the Speaker's Corner tomorrow at 10.
Of course.
But to have one clear common vision and sharing the same type of tools and processes, I think it's a great advantage, because that means that you have a clear framework. We get a common language between all the people working in our organization, which means that it's very easy to share ideas, to compare practices, to benchmark. We don't have to argue whether we should use a Chromebook or a PC. We have decided we all use one of those tools, and then we can gather around sharing, once again, good ideas around that. So that is, I think, is a good thing. But then also, as you both mentioned, I'm a big believer in collaborative learning. I think before, at least, teachers, like many other professions, were very focused on going on a university course to learn more and to get some more university points on their CV. But honestly, I don't think it really drove competence much further. I think much more we can do together in your school, between colleagues, sharing ideas, watching each other, doing evaluations together, reading interesting research together. We have a sort of central pedagogical research department that can also support schools in finding themes to work around. They can also spread interesting materials and stuff like that. So I think collaborative learning really creates results.
Perfect, thank you. You know, the last months, Fundación Telefónica and Alto Data Analytics, they were working in a report, you know, like measuring the conversation about education all over the world. This was 2 months all over Twitter, Instagram, what is the teachers and the common people are talking about education. And one of the surprise, it was that the conversation is a lot about the personalization. So adaptive learning, machinery learning, learning algorithms. So it's not only about teachers that are talking about how can we measure and adapt learning. It's just all the conversation around in Twitter and other social networks is about adaptation, personalization. The report is in the website from Fundación Telefónica. I think it's very interesting to have a look if you have the opportunity. But I would like to ask you, you know, we always talk about personalization and adaptation of methodologies with students, but how do you imagine, how do you look for a way of personalize the teacher training? Because we always are thinking about the students, but we also need to think like how is the learning passport from a teacher? You know, a teacher starts with, I don't know, 20, 18, 21, 22 years old, but it's going to be 40 years in the classroom, and it's a lot of learning happening over there. So how can we develop something that is more like a living curriculum and not more like a closed and stacked paper? You know, how do you see personalization for teacher training? Freely, take the word. I don't know. Frederick.
Well, I think in many ways you can use the same tools as with the students, actually. I mean, traditionally, I think teacher training has been a lot gathering your teachers in a room, lectures and stuff like that. In many ways, I think it still is like that. But we have actually created this online platform where we can get material, films, exercises, and different stuff around the different tools in our toolbox that teachers when they start at Kunskapskolan, they will work with this together with other newly employed teachers, for example. But then they can also do this over and over again at home or on their spare time if they want to go back, learn more about certain things. So create a platform for that. We also have communities online where the math teachers, for example, you can share ideas across the nation, across different countries also. So I think you can use some of the digital tools also there.
Perfect, yeah. Rocío, you wanted to...
Probably, as we mentioned before, if we want to personalize the education of each student, taking into account their attitude and their possibilities, you also, as Frederick mentioned, you have to also personalize the training of the teachers. But you have, in order to be very close to the different situation of the classrooms, you have to link with the real situation. You cannot train the teachers apart from reality.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because if not, even if you are not going to use a 3D printer, you have to know which is the context where they are going to work later on. So I think they have to be close, but you have to give them different tools, because then later they will use it depending on the context that they will have to teach. And it's not the same if you have a small classroom or a different socioeconomic context, and you have to give them different tools and they can adapt depending on the kind of student.
Perfect. Lucia?
I think there are two important points here. One is initial training. So colleges of education should include technology as part of their core training. They usually give one discipline or one course, but I think it should be part of the profession of being a teacher to understand learning technology and learning science. That's one point. The second thing is that what we are doing, we developed a tool to self-evaluation of teachers' competencies in technology, because we realized that some teachers were really embarrassed to say that I don't know how to teach with technology, or I don't want to expose myself and say that I know nothing. So we developed this tool. We just launched it 2 months ago, and more than 25,000 teachers have already done it. And they receive a report in their personal email saying that's where you are. These are the skills that you know how to do well. And what does it mean to your teaching? It means that you have some constraints and some limitations, but here is what you can do to improve. So teachers are taking this personalized track of self-development, and then we aggregate this data for the schools department in order for them to offer exactly the kind of training that the different groups of teachers in their department need. Because otherwise they would always offer the same course all over again without really identifying what were the needs of different groups of teachers in their department.
I really think online tools for self-assessment are one of the big things we really start to do to build something like this learning passport for teachers. You know, I can see where I am, I can see what I want to get, how can I go there? Maybe I can go to a workshop, I can take a Blender learning course, I can go to a MOOC, or I can do something online, so it's great. But you also wanted to say something, Frederick?
A good example, I think, is self-evaluation is fantastic, both for students and for teachers. I was thinking, we are actually right now trying a tool to document lesson observations. I'm sure you do that also in your schools, but now we're trying for the first time a digital lesson observation documentation application. Wow. And not so much that I don't want to control our teachers, but it's a good way to document, to visualize for them their strengths and weaknesses, but it will also allow for us as an operator of these schools to on an aggregated level see Where do we have strengths and where do we have weaknesses? And then we can address the weaknesses from sort of a joint level.
Of course. Great. Rocío?
No, I just want to say that like 4 years ago, or even 5, we introduced in secondary schools a new subject called technology, programming, and robotics. And it was really interesting, but we cannot teach this subject to students if the teachers didn't get the proper training, because if not, they will get like technology phobia, that it was happening at the beginning. So as we realized that, we gave them a very personalized technology training, and things changed completely, and they start to love the subject and to teach the subject. So you cannot try that a student will be digital, technological persons if the teachers are not technological. So you have to give them the proper training in order to teach the competencies they will need in the future.
Yeah, but may I say something about that? Because we always say that we have to teach because students are natives, but that's not really true. Students know, they are users of technology, but they really don't understand technology. So, and I say that because it's so important. There is a study of OECD that says that self-efficacy, the teachers feeling competent, is perhaps the most important variable for them to be good teachers. And I think we are doing wrong with technology because we say, you know, your students are digital natives and you know nothing about technology. That's not true. Students are users of technology, as teachers are. We all use WhatsApp, but when you ask a student, for example, what is the algorithm of Google? What is the algorithm behind Facebook? They don't know. They don't even know the concept of algorithm. When you ask about responsibility, about cyberspace, of the legal implications, they don't know. So what we are trying to say to teachers is that technology is bringing new things, new knowledge to our lives, and we all have to learn, students and teachers. It's not that you are not competent, it's that it's really new, and we all have to learn.
I think we need to know how to watch Netflix. That is very easy, but we need to also know how the Netflix is recommending a new series to us and how does it work, because it's not the same watching that having a profile about your likes or dislikes in the same tool. Fredrik, you wanted to say something?
Maybe building on that point, I think it's also not only a question of learning how to use technology and digital tools, but also how to set borders or to learn when not to use digital tools, when we leave the mobile phones outside the classroom, or we actually might need to shut down certain websites during the school day. I think that's part also of living digital, to learn when not to use these things. And I hope we can learn much from the neuroscience around this.
What's happening with that? We got the last 3 minutes. So what is your last 3 ideas? 1 minute per each of you. So 3 ideas. How do you close your day about the first day in Enlighted? We have 2 days ago to the next 2 days, but also how do you close the day with your main 3 ideas you take from the experience we share here today?
Okay, I would like to emphasize that there is no controversial between technologies and learning. I think that technology is a way or a tool to facilitate learning, updating, and even to teach how to do a safe use of the technologies. Also, I would like to say that as soon as the students start to learn not only how to use technology, robotics or programming or whatever, I think it will be easier for them, because I think it's like foreign language. As soon as they start, for them it's very intuitive and very easy. So I think we should start before even to start to programming or to doing robotics or whatever. I don't mean that they have to be an expert coders, but they are going to tackle with coding and so on. So they have to have, since they are very young, a little bit of this kind of technologies. Third, probably I will say that teachers are really able to learn new things, and they are very responsible if we gave them the instruments to know.
The proper tools.
The proper tools to learn. So we have to be optimistic, and I don't think it's going to be this war against learning in a traditional way or learning in a very sophisticated way or technological way.
Okay, thank you. Lucia, how are your 3 tops?
I totally agree, but I think technology is not only a tool, it's also a body of knowledge that all of us need to understand. And this morning I learned a lot about technology, because I think there are algorithms that are going to dominate our life, and we need this critic stance of, you know, this I'm going to accept and this I'm not going to accept. And I'm very optimistic about technology in education, because I think we are going to reclaim what is human about education, what cannot be replaced by any technology, no matter how advanced it is. So I think that those moments that the teacher sits with a child, that he's not filling forms or grading papers, but really talking and arguing and discussing something, we are going to have more of this precious time, which is, I think, for me, the beauty of education.
I love it.
So technology, I think, is going to help us to reclaim that.
Okay, thank you. Frederick, you started with curiosity, communication, and collaboration.
Exactly.
How do you want to end?
Points. Well, it's always nice to meet people from different parts of the world, and it makes you realize that we are facing similar challenges in education, I think. That's point number 1. Number 2 is that education is really changing, and it's important to find a way to navigate in this change, very much driven by technology. I'm also very optimistic, but it's important to navigate, to have a clear vision, I think, and then step by step moving forward, and to make sure that you really create results for the students. Third point, just a reminder once again, relationship.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think we believe in teachers, and we think enlighted is going to be a huge point for the transformation and reinventing the education with teachers. So thank you very much. And thank you all of you for being with us to the end of the day. Thank you a lot.
Okay, thank you. All right,